Nyaho! Oops. Nyaho, everybody! Hi. Hi. We are here today together again for another Warhammer Wednesday. Hello, Heka, you get the first cast. Heka. Nyaho, Heka. Nyaho, Timo. Nyaho, Eeyore. 50 minutes till Pocopia releases over here. Let's freaking go. Hi, Timo. Nyaho, here. Thank you for the alert. Nyaho, James. Tau Empire. Say hello. Hello, Tau Empire. The entire Empire. Nyaho. Hello, Miko Jones. Welcome. Today, I'm so excited. We're going to talk about women. I love women. I'm so excited. Women almost won the poll 2 weeks ago. Okay, we were getting really close, but I know you guys love your Space Marines. It's okay. I love the Space Marines too. They're fun and big guys. Meh, women are overrated. Somebody see this guy out. Somebody see this guy out. I don't know what he's talking about. You may. But yeah, we are gonna learn about women. This could change everything. We know I am an orc kind of guy. We know I love orcs. Okay, cat. And we know that I want to build little space shark space marines, right? But what if I fall in love with the sisters? I don't know. I guess we gotta see. Take any bets. Am I gonna fall in love with the sisters? Apparently, you guys already knew that I'd love the Carcharodons before I even watched them. Are you gonna know that I'm already gonna love it? Eyawalfi, Nyaho, Sorin, Eris. Probably has no audio. Can you do me a check on the last DM? Oh, yeah. Hold on. Thank you for calling me out. I like eggs. Eggs is good. Eggs is nice. That's what you think? Oh, I can shit talk. And he'll know what I'm saying. Yeah. Hey. Anyways. Do we have anyone here? Do we have anyone here who is a ride or die for the sisters? Anybody love the sisters? Sister lovers, where are you? Show yourself. I love that Gyaru fit. Gyaru. Okay, bye. I'm Sisters Guy in 40k, which is dangerously expanding to agents because of Kill Team Kids. Ooh. Okay, have fun at work. Sisters have peak aesthetic. I am completely unbiased as I paint some of my sisters. I'm excited for the aesthetic. I love the aesthetic. I want to see some of your sisters. Show me your sisters. Introduce me to your sisters. I have a Warhammer chat in the Discord where you may share your sisters with me. I will treat them respectfully. Okay. I'm almost plotting in Valo. Let's freaking go, Echo. Excited for you to not play Valo because you're playing Pocopia. Okay. So we are going to be watching Weshammer's Sister of Battle video. Are you playing Pocopia? Yeah, it's on the schedule. This was 3 years ago. I should get my sister painted with something else. than a wraithbone undercoat. Yes. Don't just prime your sisters. Bling your sisters out. Let's go in. Did you see the Procopia Vtuber mod? I did not. A lot of you guys recommended Weshammer. So Weshammer who I decided to land on for the Sisters of Battle video. Also, this one is like an hour, so I only picked one, but if we're still going, if there's some shorter ones, let me know, and we can add that to today's repertoire. Shall we begin? My volume is on max. My volume in OBS is on max. I am pressing play.
This video is brought to you by Warhammer 40k Tacticus. In the grim darkness of the far future, humanity is beset on all sides.
Welcome back to the
some
Grim
of
Dark.
most
Thank
truly
you.
Horrific and monstrous entities imaginable. Dark eldritch gods that view the living as nothing more than playthings. All manner of heretics, witches, mutants, and alien abominations that lurk deep in the void of space and hunger for the flesh of mortal men. To be born into such a galaxy is a truly horrific fate indeed. But aside from the various heroic forces that seek to protect the kingdom of man, there is a force far more powerful that inspires hope in the believer and fear in the hearts of the corrupt. I speak, of course, of faith, of the collective
More powerful
belief
than
of an
man.
entire species that propels them to ever-increasing acts of greatness, even in such a miserable existence. Now, although the faithful are many, with an estimated human population in the quintillions, none are more adept at using the powers of faith as a weapon than that of the Adepta Sororitas. The Sisters of Battle, as they are often
Sororitas.
called, are a truly ancient and righteous organization of battle-hardened women, each possessing considerable martial skill and
That's my favorite thing to hear, battle-hardened women. Sign me up. Sign me up.
organization of battle-hardened women, each possessing considerable martial skill and raised from birth in some of the most stringent and brutal military academies in the galaxy. Each and every warrior possessing a deadly combination of intellect, military prowess, and unbreakable resolve in their holy crusade. The Sisters
So they're smart. They're loyal. They're powerful. Tell me more. Tell me more.
military prowess, and unbreakable resolve in their holy crusade. The Sisters march to war armored by steel and faith, and deliver salvation to those that follow in the Emperor's light, and his divine judgment to the wicked. They are armed with the Holy Trinity, Bolter, Flamer, and Melta, with which they deliver the Emperor's divine obliteration to the heretic, the witch, and the mutant. While they fight, they sing hymns and shout out the names of their blessed saints and founders.
Singing while
the
they
screams
fight.
of the unclean, drowned out by the roar of chainswords and the prayers bellowed in his name. Sisters in winged jump packs fly overhead, descending upon their enemies like a retinue of vengeful angels.
Angel women? That's my favorite Digimon! Wait, this is so cool. I didn't know they flew.
Jump packs fly overhead, descending upon their enemies like a retinue of vengeful angels, while multi-missiles from their artillery tanks rain down upon the fortification of the heretics as if from heaven itself. Each and every weapon, piece of armor, and war machine is anointed with holy scripture, sanctified by the priests of their order. Their faith in the Emperor is so absolute that the Sisters display a level of fearlessness unheard of for mortals. And perhaps even more remarkably, their faith often manifests itself through literal miracles. The force of a blow being amplified beyond what is possible. The stock of their gun breaking through armored helmets and crushing skulls. Charging heretics suddenly bursting into flames. Attacks from their enemies that, by all accounts, should have been mortal injuries, leaving little more than faint bruises. Or even literal angels materializing out of nowhere the moment all hope seems lost. They march across the galaxy, showing no mercy to the demonic abominations that have wormed their way into the hearts of the weak.
Wait, so are they kind of like orcs? If they will it, it happens? Because they're faithful? Are orcs faithful? Wait, I gotta like them, because they're orc-like. They're holy orcs.
Notices BSB 420.
Hi, Genomic. Hi, VSB. I don't think Weshammer is a good lore guy. Oh, that's good. That's good. Not to that level, but kinda. They believe. I love it when they believe. Guys, I told you, Warhammer is magic.
Showing no mercy to the demonic abominations that have wormed their way into the hearts of the weak. for all that stray from his light must face his divine judgment. To stand against the Sisters of Battle is to fight belief itself, a force that is unkillable, unwavering, unquestioning, and unrelenting. Their holy wars will never end until every last ounce of corruption has been ripped from the beating heart of the Imperium, and the stars themselves are stained red with the blood of heretics. Through the fires of war and their righteous zeal, will the Sisters cleanse the galaxy of the heretic, the witch, and the alien, purged in his name. So with all that out of the way, what exactly are the Sisters of Battle, and what are they all about? Well, the Sisters of Battle are a militant branch of a larger organization known as the Adepta Sororitas, which itself is an all-female sisterhood of an even larger organization known as the Adeptus Ministorum, or more commonly as the Ecclesiarchy. Now, you can think of the Ecclesiarchy like the official state church of the Imperium. That maintains that the Emperor of Mankind was a living god who walked amongst his servants before ascending to the realm of the spiritual with his entombment upon the Golden Throne. He now watches over and protects mankind from the heavens. Their religion is officially known as the Imperial Cult, and the tenets they lay out as the Imperial Creed. It is the faith shared by just about every loyal human alive, with the exception of a handful of factions such as the Adeptus Mechanicus or the majority of the Space Marines, to name but a few. The church itself controls an enormous amount of power and holds great influence over the Imperium, standing side by side with the Adeptus Administratum as one of the primary powers governing day-to-day life within the Imperium. To the average citizen living amongst the million worlds of the Imperium, the Emperor has always been the god of humanity. It has always been this way. But we as the audience get to see him through the Horus Heresy novels and get a better understanding of his views on religious worship, something that he was definitely not in favor of at the time, and saw religion as a hindrance to mankind's ability to prosper. But from humanity's perspective, those events happened over 10,000 years ago, and the vast majority of the documentation of what he was actually like has either been lost or purged. They mostly just have to go on what the Ecclesiarchy has told them. Most of the
history rewritten. The Emperor's like, hate a religion, hate that for us. And the Ecclesiarchy writing their little notes like, I'm gonna cut that one out. We don't need to know about that one. Did he change his mind while dead? He could. He talks while he's dead. He's not dead, he's still alive, but he talks. Do you think it's heresy to do dirty thinking about the Emperor? It's like one of those... I mean, where have I seen this archetype before? Like one of those, this is like our Lord and Savior, our supreme God. It's like Overlord, right? No, it's not like, Like they serve him and their lives are for him, and they would probably be honored if he was one alive and would want them. But I think their faith is much stronger than that, so I don't think they need to be thinking about all that. Lay back and think of England. I mean, the Emperor. England! Nyaho pounds his lost cigars. Nyaho Akiva.
The knowledge of his divinity comes from a book known as the Lectitio Divinitatis, a tome that was penned by one of the Emperor's Primarch sons, Lorgar of the Wordbearers, who would go on to be the first betrayer of the Imperium and initiate the Horus Heresy, one of the bloodiest civil wars mankind had ever seen. And nowadays, he's literally a demon out in the warp doing all kinds of unspeakable evil things. To use a real-world example, it would be like the Bible being written by the devil. The fact that he wrote this book is known only to a few, such as Guilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines, and the de facto leader of the Imperium in the 41st millennium. But if he were to reveal such knowledge, it would immediately be condemned as blasphemy by the church, and would send the entirety of the Imperium into chaos, so he keeps his mouth shut. The Emperor is everywhere and everything at all times.
Yeah, somebody should have fact-checked that. There should have been like an editor or something, somebody in between Lorgar and the Ecclesiarchy, especially if Guilliman knows. Hello? Like, hey, that's not a good book. What if Guilliman wrote his own book? He's like, I got a book. I got a book. No? In Dune, the whole God Emperor thing plays out as him being a villain holding humanity back so they travel far once freed. The 40k Emperor is on a different level. He's at a different level. He's built differently, literally. Look at him.
It is believed that he offers his divine protection that those that believe in him. And the people of this time take great comfort in this, because the 40k
Wait, Gilliman did write a book, but nobody wants to read it? What the heck? The Ecclesiary is like, we already read one book. I'm over it. I don't need to be reading 2 books. Get that heresy out of here. Wow, the Ecclesiary, low-key, kind of just lazy. They're like, hey, we did it. We read a book. I don't want to read another book. Kind of long, kind of winded. Didn't really like how he writes. Whatever, it is what it is. This is the word of the Emperor. Throw your other book away. Now he's trying to rewrite it because his kids took it too seriously. Okay, so, you know what? Who is the editor, Tech Marine, okay? Who is the master of editing? The Ultramarines read Gilliman's book all the time. He wrote the Codex Astartes. Okay, well, that's a good book, but he needs to write a book about, you know, the Emperor. There was a loyalist word-bearer dreadnought called the Anchorite who helped the Ecclesiary with the theology. Okay, so, but word-bearer, he was one of Lorgar's little guys. So he was believing in Lorgar. Also, if there's like 20 Primarchs, shouldn't, I don't know, each guy get a chapter in the book about Father? Well, I guess we can strike out Horus's chapter and whatnot. But, you know, would you read a book by the dude that gets on with the Eldar? Is that Lorgar? Oh, well. Do you think that's why they are named chapter? No. Nobody reads. Gilliman did write a book called the Codex Astartes. The most fanatical space marines of Black Templars prefer to use it as sanitary wipes. Oh. Lorgar wasn't faithful enough. Oh. Probably someone from the Administorium because they're pinnacle pushers. Anchorites stayed loyal to E even when Lorgar jumped ships. Okay, well that's good. Somebody's got to be loyal.
For lack of better words, is pretty brutal and horrifying. For those who live in squalor in the Underhives, or in poverty on some backwater agri-world that the Imperium has all but forgotten about, knowing that the Emperor is watching over them gives many the strength they need to keep going. When it comes to the way the Sisters of Battle view their faith, there are a few very specific beliefs that, although are not wholly unique to the Sisters, make them stand apart from the masses. That is the belief in righteous suffering and martyrdom. For the Sisters, suffering is to be embraced. For to suffer is to be made stronger and eventually be made immune to it. They believe there is no greater death than to die in the Emperor's name. Each sister believes that through death will her martyrdom light a fire in the hearts of thousands, if not millions. And over time, the tales of her heroic deeds will spread across the galaxy, inspiring courage and heroism in a whole new generation. It is a glorious death, and not to be feared, but embraced as going home to the Emperor. Before we go any further, a quick shout out to this video's sponsor, who was nice enough to provide some prizes to give away to my viewers.
Oh my gosh, prizes! So, if they value suffering, then maybe they probably do have those thoughts about the Emperor because they know they shouldn't be having those thoughts about the Emperor, so they have them so that they can flush them out and suffer through them and get stronger. So yeah. Suffering is their prayer. Amen. Ouch. Space Wolves read the Codex and memorize every line so they can properly hate it. Now that's a real one. I love when haters do their research. It's the best kind of hater.
When I heard that Warhammer 40k Tacticus was going to be a mobile game, I'm going to be
mobile game!
I was a little bit skeptical. 40k games are hit or miss as it is, and that goes double for mobile games. But here's the thing, I actually ended up really enjoying it. The game is free to play.
Who's still
and
playing
features
this?
dozens of iconic units and characters from the 40k franchise, and allows you to get in some awesome 40k gameplay whenever you want. Tacticus currently features
A
3
guild?
separate campaigns that see you spearhead the assault in some of 40k's most famous crusades, such as the Indomitus Crusade, the Fall of Cadia, and Warzone Octarius. The game also
So
features
the
a
Fall of
PvP
Cadia is on a
arena
mobile
where you
game.
can test your
Crazy.
skills against teams from around the world, a Tyranid-themed horde mode called Onslaught, and even some guild raids that see you and your guild working together to take down some truly monstrous creatures. Tacticus currently
Is there
features 8
gacha?
beloved
Is there
factions
gacha?
from the Warhammer 40k universe, including the Ultramarines, the Adepta Sororitas, the Black Legion, Astra Militarum, Necrons, Black Templar, Death Guard, and everyone's favorite, the Orcs. And the developers
Orcs!
have promised
That's
that
my
they're going to be
favorite!
adding even more factions over time. Now, I've been playing Warhammer 40k for 15 years. I own a frankly irresponsible amount of Warhammer armies, and one of the world's largest piles of shame. And if it was up to me, I would be playing the tabletop game every day. But since YouTube
he's
became my
good.
full-time job, I just don't have a lot of time for gaming anymore. Tacticus has been absolutely amazing, and has allowed me to get my 40k fix without having to dedicate 5 hours to a single game. I launched the app, and within seconds, I'm playing a condensed version of Warhammer 40k, and now is the perfect time to start playing the game, as it just launched a few days ago as of the time of this recording. So everyone is just getting started together, and the awesome people over at Tacticus were nice enough to supply me with some pretty cool prizes for my viewers, including a Tacticus hoodie, a
Whoa,
combat
a
toolbox,
hoodie!
a
Oh,
piece of
whoa,
furniture,
whoa, whoa,
and a set
whoa.
of painting supplies to get you
I'm
started
listening
in the
now.
Warhammer hobby. So stay tuned to the end of the video for instructions on how to enter. It's totally free and you don't even have to download the game. So thanks again to the awesome people over at Warhammer 40k Tacticus for sponsoring this video. And with that out of the way,
Thank you for
let's get into
sponsoring the video. Not this
In the
video. My video is not sponsored. That video is sponsored. Did you look into Enfield? I actually did not. Some of the trailers in it are kind of nice and funny. The way I literally play this unironically. You're still playing it? Let's go! Yes, there's gacha, but you have like 4 characters per faction. Oh, boo. The sisters probably have those thoughts. They don't take vows of celibacy like Catholic nuns. But wouldn't it be heretical to think that someone so great and powerful like the Emperor would want to be with you? Like, isn't that heresy? Even if they don't take vows of celibacy? Like, specifically thinking about the Emperor in that light. Like, they can think about any other guy, okay? But the Emperor, I don't know. This is an old ad because they added almost every major army. Let's freaking... So there's more gotcha, you're saying. I don't know, maybe we're gonna look into this.
for sponsoring this video. And with that out of the way, let's get into the Grimdark. In the novel Mark of Faith by Rachel Harris, a group of sisters is fighting against the demonic forces of chaos. They have suffered enormous losses and are basically making their last stand. Now, one of these women...
They can have kids? What do kids of the sisters do? Do they go to special sister kid boarding school? Wow, the pressure to live up to your mom's name. That's crazy. Dang. Okay. Is this the book Riri's reading?
Mark of Faith by Rachel Harris, a group of sisters is fighting against the demonic forces of chaos. They have suffered enormous losses and are basically making their last stand. Now, one of these women who will become the main character of this story, Evangeline, is remarked by her fellow sisters as having one of the most beautiful voices in the entirety of the Sororitas. This is a truly dark day, and the sisters know that it may be the end for them. So her fellow sister Isadora asks her, "Will you sing for us once more?"
Oh, they have beautiful names. Evangeline was the name of my old PC. That's crazy. Evangeline, Isadora, write this down. You can become sisters or boy sisters. Let's freaking go.
May be the end for them. So her fellow sister Isadora asks her, "Will you sing for us once more? Will you sing for us at the end?"
Sing for me, Paolo.
She knows that her sisters take great comfort in her singing, and so she promises that she will. And this is when the sister superior of the group gives this speech. "We have suffered greatly here, my sisters, as we suffered at Ocassus and at Armageddon and on 100 other battlefields. But suffering is not to be lamented. Suffering is to be celebrated. Where there is suffering, there is life. There is spirit and fire and all of the things for which he made us. Where there is suffering, that is where we must fight, with every ounce of our strength he gave us, until it is time to join him in eternal glory. Fight, suffer, stand until you cannot, in his name. After this, the demons of Tzeentch begin to materialize all around.
Okay, suffer. You gotta suffer. I do believe there's a book in the universe called My Love for You is Only Surpassed by My Love for Him on Terra. And I think there's a sister that has the book, has it in the book that is exactly what you think it is. They actually just dropped the new Sisters of Battle show on their app. What the heck? New show? Let's go.
Them, and the sisters charge into battle, bolter shells blasting apart demons and chainswords roaring to life. Just as the sisters seem like they may end up having the upper hand, a greater demon, a lord of change, materializes before them, and through its twisting flamethrower made of pure warp magic, it begins to immolate the sisters one by one. The demons surge with newfound power at the appearance of their dark leader, and the sisters end up getting overwhelmed. Evangeline is fighting her hardest, her bolter pounding in her hands, but when she looks to her left, she sees her beloved sister Isadora engulfed in flames.
Isadora!
And in a seemingly mocking cruelty, the Lord of Change casts a terrible spell that slows down time, forcing the soldiers to endure the agonizing pain. Evangeline wants to scream a roar of rage at the sight, but it's locked in her throat by the spell. Slowly, the burning face of her sister turns to her. Isadora manages one final request. Sing, she says. The spell dissipates, and the woman falls to her knee, burning alive. Evangeline is the youngest of the group, and in comparison is inexperienced. She doesn't know what to do. She is completely overwhelmed. So she does the only thing she can.
He made her burn in slow motion? What a freaking asshole! I hate that! Ooh, his ass will be grass. Sing!
Experienced. She doesn't know what to do. She is completely overwhelmed. So she does the only thing she can, and she sings.
She sings.
Just like she promised she would. O God Emperor, who is strength, I devote this life to you. While she sings, her bolter barks its fury. She turns its wrath upon the greater demon, bursting feathers and blood.
That's kind of bad.
The beast roars and wheels about, sending bouts of fire into her other sisters. O God Emperor, who is grace, I devote this life to you. She buckles and falters, blood welling up in her throat, but never stops singing. She steadies herself and continues her march on this abhorrent abomination, the thing that has taken everything from her, her home and her sisters, but it hasn't taken her faith. As she sings, her sister Ashava manages to slip through the greater demon's guard, leaping into the air to meet it, her chainsword tearing into its flank. The beast screams in pain and grabs her out of the air with a clawed hand and smashes her into the ground. Evangeline's heart breaks as her sister's bones do. O God Emperor, who is valor, I devote.
Evangeline's heart breaks as her sister's bones do? Proceed.
Evangeline's heart breaks as her sister's bones do. O God Emperor, who is valor, I devote this life to you. She keeps singing, tears rolling down her face as the demon turns its bellowing fire onto their standard bearer. A relic that before, the demons couldn't touch or even come near. The standard bearer warps and twists into a chaos spawn and throws itself at Evangeline, knocking her to the ground. Just before the creature can finish her off, its multifaceted head bursts apart. Standing behind it is her sister superior Adeline, holding a smoking bolter. Sing, Evangeline, she says, as a tear trails through the blood and dirt on the old woman's face. Before Evangeline can get up, the greater demon lunges and swings its massive sword at them. There is a blinding light, and when it dissipates, the women are still alive. Her sister superior deflected the blow with her power sword. A seeming impossibility, a miracle. Stand until you cannot, the old woman says to her. She gets up and stands by her sister superior, ready to face the demon once more.
I don't like
its
this.
Sword falls again. This time, a miracle does not manifest, and her sister superior is cut down, the blow cleaving straight through the power sword to eviscerate her. Evangeline screams in rage and deep sadness, and picks up the broken sword and stands against the chaotic monstrosity. She is the last sister standing, and the demons are swarming in on her. She is ready to join her fallen sisters. Despite her suffering, she finishes her song, O God Emperor, I devote this death to you. She raises her hands in the shape of the Aquila, and the darkness takes her. And you'll just have to read the book for yourself if you want to know more. It's excellent, and this story comes from the first few pages, so I don't want to spoil the rest of it. The Sacred Orders of the Adepta Sororitas.
The first few pages! Oh my god! They're gonna have me crying in the first few pages. That's crazy. I guess that the singing is kind of the things that orcs do with believing. Singing is believing. Oh my gosh. She's just out here singing. Singing while holding her gun. That's so good. Nyaho, Leora. Thank you for watching the fish and watching the chat. Everybody water yourselves. Replenish the fuel of tears.
Sororitas are thousands of years old and began during one of the darkest periods in mankind's history, known as the Age of Apostasy. Thousands of years later, in the current time period of the 41st millennium, the Sisterhood acts as one of mankind's greatest military forces, standing alongside that of the Space Marines, the Astra Militarum, the Imperial Navy, the Custodians, and the Adeptus Mechanicus. The presence of the Sisters on the battlefield inspires the forces of the Astra Militarum in particular, due to their shared faith, to ever greater acts of bravery and heroism, such as the commanding charismatic presence that they hold. The Ecclesiarchy and the Sororitas are withholden to the larger Imperium, but they can enact their own campaigns known as Wars of Faith, if it is deemed that the Imperial Creed has been threatened. Such engagements can last for hundreds if not thousands of years, and are not complete until all traces of heresy have been completely eradicated. Such wars see the Sisters ferried into battle in their thousands, their warriors sent to destroy and slaughter any who have strayed so far from the path of the righteous that even the Emperor's light cannot redeem them. They act in his name as judge, jury, and executioner of the condemned. Now, the Adepta Sororitas is a massive organization, and normally what we see in the lore is just their militant branches, which are often commonly referred to as the Sisters of Battle. The Sororitas actually features a lot of different orders that are not combat related, such as the Order Hospitaller, which focuses mainly on medical research and the training of battlefield medics. So if the Adepta Sororitas is such a massive organization, then how is it organized? Well, it is split between two major covenants, one on Terra, known as Covenant Prioris, and another on the sacred world of Ophelia 7, known as Covenant Sanctorum. The two covenants are then further broken down into many different smaller orders as well, such as the militant orders of the Bloody Rose, Martyred Lady, and Valorous Heart being based in Ophelia, while the Sacred Rose, Ebon Chalice, and Argent Shroud operate out of Terra, each one being founded by or at least dedicated to a specific saint. All of these different organizations have completely unique histories, cultures, and interpretation of religious doctrines. And whatever differences they may have, they can all agree that they serve the Emperor above all others and are instruments of his will. And when it comes to the Sisters' power hierarchy, it's pretty straightforward. At the absolute top, you have the rank of Abbess Sanctorum, a rank currently held by Morven Val. They are the leader of the entire Adepta Sororitas, and the position is that of the highest duties and responsibilities, one to be born with stoicism, rigid devotion, and humble acceptance. Beneath her are what is known as Prioresses, who are the figureheads of each of the two covenants.
Sisters.
And further down the line, every single order is represented by a Canoness Superior. Missions are often led by a Canoness, and well beneath her are her Palatines, or junior officers. And with all that out of the way, let's talk a bit more about how the Sisters wage war, by taking a closer look at a handful of their most iconic units. So the Battle Sisters serve as the frontline soldiers and bulk of the Adepta Sororitas' fighting force. These women are clad in power armor and trained extensively in the use of what is referred to as the Holy Trinity of Bolter, Melta, and Flamer. And I know I've said this about other things in the past, but that has got to be the most metal thing I have ever read. The Bolter represents the hand of the Emperor, reaching out to condemn the heretic. The Flamer and its bouts of holy fire, representing the Emperor's purifying word. Well, the Meltagun, which fires beams of superheated energy that can penetrate even the strongest metals in the galaxy, is seen as his penetrating gaze. And when the Holy Trinity is combined and utilized on the battlefield, it creates an all-purpose zone of death that obliterates hordes of infantry and armored vehicles alike, none escaping from the Sisters' judgment. Now, these women are not gene-augmented like their Space Marine cousins, instead are just human women, recruited from the Schola Progenium, which honestly deserves its own video.
Out here! They're just not augmented, no gene seed, no genetic material, no 21 livers or whatever, no giant suit that recycles your piss. They're just gals out here with their little armor and their Trinity gun of Melta, Melta, flamethrower, and freaking bullets. Crazy. I love them. Titus to the grand scale of the Imperium is basically just another space marine. Oh. But he had the little wings. Watch his videos about the creepy mystery of Warhammer 40k and soon you'll realize there is more to this universe and be chilled to the bone. Thank you for the super fire spawn. Do I want to be chilled to the bone? They're just buff gym girls. Oh my gosh, I bet they can freaking deadlift a space marine. And I know it. Yeah, AJ. No piss suit, no piss suit. They piss in the wild like women. Okay? Bolter, Flamer, Melta. The BFM. The MFB. The FBM. One of those. The Holy Trinity. Pissing out here like women. And it's even harder because they're women. You know, the Space Marines, at least they have a little piss tube that can help them. Our girls out here killing and squatting. Crazy.
But to simplify it, you can think of it as the most elite military academy in the Imperium. Every sister is not only an incredibly skilled and disciplined warrior, but also has an incredible intellect. As the
laurels of Victory Helm is like giving an army vet a t-shirt that says good job. Oh, it's like those hats that are like, I am a veteran. Heard. The sisters are poggers. I respect the I'll respect the sisters. Nuns with guns who can have children. Crazy. It's like a founder's badge. Oh. So I would have 10 of you guys having the little laurels. But he also had the red stripe. Doesn't that mean lieutenant? Oh, he's a captain now. Maybe, I don't know, whatever. What do I know? I guess I don't know, Titus. Can the sisters pose for my next calendar? As long as it serves the Emperor. Did you watch The Raptors by JJ? I have not.
Genium is absolutely ruthless and designed to weed out the weak. These women are often led by what is known as a sister superior, a veteran sister holding a rank similar to that of a sergeant in other factions, or more rarely by a canoness, a shining beacon of righteousness and purpose, who can lead anything from a small mission of sisters
video on Greater
all the
Demon
way
is
up
also
to an
good.
entire order in the case of a canoness superior. Dominion squads are sisters of battle that are normally armed with a variety of different flamer or melta weapons in order to clear out command bunkers and any strategic site of value to the sisterhood. They are women who are sent in to smash apart enemy defenses and break battle lines.
Smash women,
They're known
smash
for
women.
being incredibly courageous and aggressive. And whereas the Dominion squads are characterized by a hot-headedness, the Retributors, on the other hand, are calm and level-headed, said to have an almost serene-like demeanor about them. They've been intensely trained in the use of heavy weapons and are said to be some of the best shots within the entirety of the sisterhood, displaying levels of almost inhuman accuracy. And although most commonly associated with the heavy bolter, it's not uncommon.
Women with aim? What's that like? I want to be a woman with aim. I want to be a woman with aim. Put me in a 5-stack with the sisters in Valorant.
Most inhuman accuracy. And although most commonly associated with the heavy bolter, it's not uncommon for Retributors to wield meltas or flamers as well, as they are all an essential part of the Trinity. The Retributors' main job is to provide supporting fire to their sisters as they advance in front of them, sending hammering volleys of bolter shells to punish those that would seek to do their sisters harm. The
Don't touch
Celestians,
my
on the other
sister.
hand, are some of the most elite combat veterans within the ranks of the Sisters of Battle, women who have seen countless horrific wars, and often, though not exclusively, will be made into units of bodyguards and have been tasked with the sacred honor of escorting their canoness into battle. Without a moment's hesitation, each one of these women would lay down their life for their beloved matriarch. The vast majority of Celestians served as Retributors or Dominions in the past, giving them access to a wide array of heavy firepower, and most of them managed to achieve the rank of a Sister Superior. And because of this, each woman brings her own distinctive set of skills and experience to the group. The bond she shares with her sisters is deeper than any other, and together, this group of veterans is able to combine their shared wisdom to overcome any obstacle or foe, no matter how powerful or horrifying. But more so than just their extensive experience, they are heralded as being some of the most devout followers of their faith, ironclad pillars of wisdom and enlightenment that inspires their younger sisters, who hope to one day emulate at least a fraction of their greatness. Now,
Big sis material. Yurei. Nyaho no 2. Are we learning the equivalent of Warhammer 40k women in STEM? Yes. Woman in STEM, woman in faith, woman in the light of the Emperor, woman in cybersecurity. Show me them. Show me these women. Bring them to me. Would these women scream profanities in VC? No, they would sing profanities in VC. Ho ho ho!
Now we're going to move on to something a little bit darker. And that is, of course, the iconic Repentia. Units of Repentia are comprised of sisters who have at some point failed to live up to the incredibly stringent code of their order. Whether it be a great personal failure, a lapse in faith, or any such other misdoing that her sister superiors believe demands penance. Such a sister will be stripped of her power armor and her guns, and will instead be given a massive two-handed chainsword known simply as an eviscerator. She will then be forced to take to the battlefield in nothing more than simple clothes and humble rags. The sisters that would be known as Repentia seek penance for their failure through glorious and holy butchery, or at the very least, absolution through their death, as there is no greater honor than to die fighting in the Emperor's name. And the way their fellow sisters view them is actually pretty interesting, because on one hand, they are outcasts and represent abject failure. But on the other, the fellow battle sisters have an enormous amount of respect for them. They are viewed as pilgrims ready to make the ultimate sacrifice for their faith, absolutely fearless in the face of overwhelming odds. Becoming a Repentia is possible for any member of the sisterhood, no matter what their rank is, from new recruits all the way up to a canoness. Even Saint Celestine was said to have served as a Repentia at one point. And even the sisters of the non-militant orders can end up as Repentia. And it doesn't have to be ordained by her superiors. There are many documented cases of sisters volunteering to take on the role of Repentia in a personal quest to atone for a perceived mistake. It doesn't matter if her sisters blame her or not. In her eyes, she has failed those closest to her and must do this to make amends. They take to the battlefield directly into the enemy's front lines. Their eviscerators roar.
I see why the armor looks this way. The sisters have a lot to work with. Crazy. I love playing tabletop with a sister player in 2v2 game. What's so fun seeing the sisters support my Space Marines. I like it. Me when the Sororitas and stack get frag start hitting the highest note. Anyways,
the blood of heretics. They strike and slash at their enemies. Every blow sending limbs spiraling through the air and unleashing torrents of blood and gore.
Okay, we can get her some clothes. Come on.
And with every corpse she creates, she feels the forgiveness of the God Emperor coming closer and closer. The worst sin that a Repentia can make is fleeing from battle. It is the ultimate act of cowardice and betrayal. It is to spit directly in the face of the God Emperor and to reject his offer of forgiveness. Such a crime is met with a truly horrific punishment. The deserter is placed into a cruel machine known as a mortifier engine. Now, much like the penitent engine, which we'll cover momentarily, it is a bipedal war machine wielding devastating melee weapons. The sister is blindfolded and
the Emperor doesn't like the
armored,
spit.
soundproof sarcophagus. She is then bound to the point where she can't even move. She will then be hooked up to the coffin's
There's a sister in there?
array, a pretty barbaric device. It's specifically designed to enhance the pilot's self-loathing exponentially. While the engine fights,
enhance the driver's self-loathing. Jesus. Don't put me in there. Keep that away from me. Hello?
Driven on by her mental anguish, she will be fully aware that the machine is in battle, on a righteous crusade to slaughter the enemies of the Emperor, a battle that she will not be permitted to take part in. And to be denied the slaughtering of his enemies is downright torturous. She knows there is no hope and that her death is soon to follow, an unremembered end of no significance, the truly worst fate that could befall a sister. The penitent engine, on the other hand, fulfills a similar role but ditches the armored sarcophagus. It is piloted by sinners, criminals, and heretics, but very specifically, a sinner who has repented their blasphemy against the Emperor, is someone who truly wishes to be redeemed. The major difference here is that being placed in a mortifier is a fate that befalls the Repentia specifically, a position that was already a second chance at atonement. There is no third chance.
Thank you for the super Andrew Green. Weshammer has a fun video on orc thoughts about other factions. They like the Beakies, think the Humies are weird, and dislike the Scrawnies. Ooh! How the orcs feel about others? Write that down, write that down. Yeah, I'm liking his style so far. Fun fact, the sisters use leather armor on top of their power armor to have more feminine look because the church can't have men at arms. True, you have to know they're a woman. Look at the boobs! They are women. Orcs are allowed feelings? Yeah, orcs have a feeling. They feel like crushing ya. Hi, Biggie.
Chances within the Adepta Sororitas. The pilots are normally members of the ecclesiarchy, whether they be part of the Sororitas itself or the larger Ministorum, individuals who have strayed from the path of the Emperor's light, and through their mistakes or lapse in faith, have brought about the deaths of members of the faithful. And rather than simply being condemned and executed, they are given the opportunity to have their death mean something, and more importantly, to gain the God Emperor's forgiveness. In order to seek such an atonement, the individual is strapped to the front of the war machine and fitted with a whole array of cybernetic implants that link them with the machine, while simultaneously having an enormous amount of life-preserving chemicals pumped into their body. The sinner is often clothed only in simple rags, the Emperor's divine protection being the only armor that they will receive. The engine and its pilot are driven by a frenzied need to be forgiven, hurling themselves into combat and rampantly slaughtering the enemy until they are inevitably put down. The drugs that are constantly being pumped into their bloodstream are miraculous at preserving life. They, however, are not given any form of painkiller, as salvation is achieved through great suffering, meaning that the sinner can suffer grievous injuries that would surely kill them over and over and over, yet they will not be granted the mercy of death. The Sisters of Battle see it as their sacred duty to bear witness to the holy carnage brought about by the penitent engines.
The sisters are stronger than me. I pop an ibuprofen as soon as I get a headache. Dang. Also, it's not even like a rip scan. It's like you take the whole person and you put them inside of the mech. You don't even rip scan them. You just put them in and pump them with go juice. I don't know what you expected. I don't know, just some gals hanging out, having fun, being gals. Dang.
It's a grotesque, brutal, and sickening display. And even though the pilots have committed heinous crimes, their willingness to do this, to throw themselves into the fray, is a remarkable act of devotion that should be respected. And finally, I want to talk about one of the strangest entities that the sisters utilize in war. They're known as the Living Saints, Saint Celestine potentially being the most famous of which. These are divine, angel-like entities that seem to appear almost at random whenever they are needed the most, and most of their reported sightings end with their apparent death, only for them to reappear once more, sometimes decades or even centuries later. The Living Saints were mortals at one.
Okay, I was just about to ask this. Sorry, I was gonna be like, but they're normal humans. Okay, go on, Wes. Sorry.
Point that through their remarkable devotion to the Emperor, have ascended to something similar to that of a demon prince. They have been imbued with a portion of the Emperor's strength and abilities, which grants them remarkable powers, swinging flaming swords and manifesting gouts of holy flame from their person or weaponry. They take to the battlefield aloft on glorious feathered wings, like an avenging angel, sent to deliver salvation to the faithful and damnation to the wicked. And I don't think it's possible to truly put into words what such an entity does for the morale of the Emperor's faithful. They appear when all hope seems lost, when the Imperium has suffered uncountable losses, and the enemy is sure to overwhelm them at any moment, when everything seems absolutely hopeless, and the mantra of the Emperor protects loses all meaning for the guardsmen in the trenches. In that moment, an actual angel appears, a literal physical manifestation of their faith, and a true, unquestionable miracle. To witness such divinity made manifest swells the hearts of the Sisters of Battle and the men and women of the Astra Militarum with hope, pride, and a refound vigor, a righteous second wind that propels them into combat, once more into the den of devils, shouting praise to the Emperor at the top of their lungs. So now that we know more about the Adepta Sororitas,
They're literally fairies, okay? Everybody's losing faith and someone's like, I do believe in fairies, and then one of them shows up like an angel. Wow. Magical. A thing that it gets pointed out sometimes is that this is very similar to stuff the Chaos God do with some of the demons. But they're angels, not demons. They're the good ones,
Let's talk about where they came from.
Where did they come from?
Battle can trace their origins back to a dark period in the Imperium's history known as the Age of Apostasy. And to truly understand the sisters, we really need to have a grasp on what this often misunderstood time period was all about. And to really understand this, we're gonna need to know the difference between two powerful organizations within the Imperium, the Administratum and the Ministorum, which is often referred to as the ecclesiarchy. You can think of them in a less than perfect analogy as the federal government and the state church of the Imperium. The Administratum was the system of bureaucrats placed in charge of running the Imperium as efficiently as possible. The pencil pushers and politicians, the ones responsible for collecting tithes from all the worlds within the Imperium, distribution of resources, overseeing supply lines, and anything you can think of when it comes to running a government. This system was a creation of the Emperor, and when he was mortally wounded and placed upon the Golden Throne, the full-time managing of the Imperium fell to them. Whereas the Ministorum is a massive and powerful organization that promotes that the Emperor is the one true God and manages the spiritual well-being, or more accurately, the strict compliance of every citizen to their imperial creed. And
what wiki feet? Who's talking about feet? What's happening? Who's Mr. Doge and why are we talking about feet? I look away for 1 second. Sakana really just hit us with one of the good ones. Hi, right. Yeah, they're good. They're women. You gotta trust. They're faithful women. You gotta believe in them. I believe.
While he was alive, the Emperor had forbid the worship of any form of deity, and in particular of himself. Now, despite this edict, many cults would arise that worshipped him in secret across the Imperium. For the most part, they remained in the shadows, meeting in the boiler rooms of ships and holding candlelight sigils. With his death, the worship of him as a god spread like wildfire. By the 32nd millennia, it is estimated that nearly 3/4 of all of humanity had taken to worshipping him. The dominant cult that viewed him as a savior figure, known as the Temple of the Savior Emperor, would come to full power in the 32nd millennium, nearly 2,000 years after he'd been entombed. It was at this point that the High Lords of Terra recognized it as the state religion of the Imperium. The Church would gain a permanent representative amongst the High Lords, and its enormous amount of influence over mankind would continue to spread. With this, the Imperium of Man became a theocracy, where priests and spiritual leaders held just as much power, if not more, than the governing officials. By the end of the 33rd millennium, every single imperial world would have at least one massive shrine built in his honor, and the Ministorum would launch many holy wars designed to secure their position of power, stamping out any deviations from their beliefs, condemning all who would refuse to follow in the Emperor's light as heretics. And at this time, their only major threat to controlling the hearts and minds of the citizens of the Imperium came from a second cult of emperor worship known as the Confederation of Light. Whereas the ecclesiarchy held the orthodox belief that sacrifices of wealth should be made to them in the form of tithes, taxes, and other such donations
not taxes.
in order to live a humble and blessed life, but also in that money could be used to spread goodwill to other imperial citizens and true believers across the galaxy. And there may have been some truth to this, but mostly it was a way of increasing the church's power. Now the Confederation...
Yeah, You want to spread that money to the other worlds and then you're riding around in a freaking Lamborghini of a space marine? Sure. I've heard this one before. Believe woman, but I've met woman, and you are blessed. If you love Jesus, you're going to have to pay taxes. If you love the Emperor, you mean. Hello? No. What are we even paying our taxes with? Aren't we all broke and working anyways? Don't they have, like, control over everybody? And then they're gonna tax them? Hello? What next?
Of Light also believed in spirituality through poverty, but didn't want that money going to their organization. In fact, they believed very sternly in the separation of church from the governing systems of the Imperium. The ecclesiarchy saw such views as massive threats to their
separation
power,
of church and state.
Were basically like, welp, can't be having any of that nonsense. Heretics. They're all a bunch of heretics. And after a few failed attempts at infiltrating this imposter cult, the organization would launch its very first holy war. And since they had a lot more fanatical soldiers and much deeper coffers in order to fund their war effort, the Confederation of Light was all but completely wiped out, with only a few underground cults of followers still existing. Now in nearly full control of the minds and hearts of quintillions of faithful servants, the amount of wealth and power that was accumulating within the ecclesiarchy is simply incomprehensible. They funneled this money into building ever increasingly grand and ornate cathedrals on worlds across the Imperium, to the point where many of these worlds would become what were known as shrine worlds. and became places where billions of pilgrims would migrate every year, turning them into economic hotspots. More importantly, their wealth was also funded into enormous armies that would go on to fight in many more holy wars in the future.
Guys, remember when Biggie went around and destroyed every single church on Terra? And now the Ecclesiary's like, cool, we're gonna make new, bigger, badder, more expensive churches everywhere to honor the Emperor. Because that's what he wants. Nyaho totally. Nobody listens. Nobody listens.
At this point, the Administratum and other governing organizations within the Imperium were rightfully getting a little pissed off. The church had such an enormous amount of control that it was able to supersede any of the orders or edicts put in place by the Administratum. They were seen by the majority of the population as speaking with the authority of the Emperor himself, which certainly superseded any laws created by bureaucrats. All of the tithes and taxes that were being collected went to the church first, leaving the coffers of the Administratum in a constant decline, leaving next to nothing to actually accomplish anything. The Ecclesiarchy began setting up its own laws, placing its own representatives as governors over different sectors, and started raising tons of new armies. They nearly had full control over the Imperium at this point. And in order to gain back some of the power and influence that the Administratum had lost, they made the decision to basically infiltrate the Ecclesiarchy. They made sure that the members the church would elect to hold powerful positions were either secretly loyal to the Administratum, or at least had their loyalty bought and paid for. This would lead to a series of completely incompetent leaders that probably ended up doing an enormous amount of damage to the people.
Wait, you're telling me that when you buy a leader, they are incompetent? Whoa. Whoa, 40K, that's crazy. I am responding to Weshammer, totally. Weshammer. This is Weshammer's. This is a battle deep dive video. Anyways, carry on.
People that lived under their rule, but the Administratum saw this as necessary for the continued existence of the Imperium as a whole. The Ministorum, frustrated by the financial impact these campaigns by the Administratum had taken on them, declared that they would move their seat of power from Holy Terra to a planet known as Ophelia 7, one of the richest planets in the Segmentum, only really being eclipsed by Terra itself and Mars. Completely moving their base of operations 10,000 light years out into the galaxy was a massive undertaking that cost an inconceivable amount of tax dollars. But the church saw it as worthwhile, because after the move, they were finally rid of the Administratum's bureaucracy and intervention tactics, and they quickly regained all of the lost funds and power. And then
they simply just moved away, which was one of the recommendations I had for some of the other guys before. Simply just get up and go. Simply just move somewhere else. I thought money makes things better. Oh, dire rat. On the scale of gifties, donos, and supers, sure. But this scale? Trillions of tax dollars to build more churches and spread your overarching control over people? Maybe not, you know? OMG, it's the Warhammer Vtuber. Hello, Noodle Knight. Welcome in. You've been down this rabbit hole once, Toli? Nice. Do you love the sisters? Hi, Hayden. We love the sisters. I'm really refraining myself to make some type of comments. Refrain yourself, you may. Refrain.
Alert.
If you want to make a comment, make sure you use bits. Just kidding. Thank you for the follow.
Yet again, raised even more powerful armies and fleets, becoming potentially the strongest military force in the entire Imperium. Their militant branches were collectively referred to as the Frateris Templar. And in the 36th millennium, the battle for control over the Imperium between the Ecclesiarchy and the Administratum reached a boiling point, and the Imperium would enter a new age, the Age of Apostasy. The Ecclesiarchy ruled...
Okay, I've been holding back from saying this for so long, but every time I see the word apostasy, I think of that one song, This is Gospel, okay? Every single time I see the word apostasy. You know the song This is Gospel? What is it? Panic at the Disco? Good stuff. Apostasy. Anyways, sorry. Now you know. Now I've shared this, I can stop holding back. You're interested in Space Marines? Good. Never change, Fish. Thank you. I'll never change. How am I doing? I'm doing good. Learning about women. Women in faith.
Imperium would enter a new age, the Age of Apostasy. The ecclesiarchy ruled like this for hundreds of years, until a new ecclesiarch, Gregor XI, was elected.
Gregor!
He was a deeply
Elected!
That saw the move to Ophelia as misguided. He felt that all of the faithful should work together for the betterment of the Imperium.
Well, look at that!
Thus declared that the ecclesiarchy would be moving back to Terra. Now the
He's thinking! He wants us to work together as a family! He wants to combine the faith! There we go.
Of the Imperium, and thus declared that the ecclesiarchy would be moving back to Terra. Now the cardinals of the Ministorum did not like this one bit, considering just how much had been spent getting them out there in the first place. And judging on their coffers, it had been incredibly successful. But the new ecclesiarch could not be swayed, and thus the move was initiated, and the head officials of the ecclesiarchy returned to Terra once again, stretching their coffers to the absolute limit. Not surprisingly, his rule did not last much longer than this, as he was found dead shortly later, having been apparently assassinated through food poisoning. This is where one of the most hated, feared, and all-around notorious characters in all of 40k enters the story. The madman known as Goj Vandire. Vandire was the 361st head of the Administratum, a position he managed to gain through a campaign of blackmail, bribery, espionage, and assassination. He had a deep hatred for the Ministorum and set in motion a plan to gain control of it. He did this by taking possibly the weakest man to have ever lived, Paulus III, and selected him to become the new ecclesiarch.
What in the Napoleon is this? Why is he the only one I've ever seen with his haircut? Continue.
Ecclesiarch. Any that would stand in the way of him getting the position would mysteriously disappear or meet an unfortunate end. After Paulus successfully became the new ecclesiarch, rumors immediately began to spread in the higher echelons of the Imperium of his apparent degeneracy and horrid personal pastimes. Vandire led a force of armed soldiers to infiltrate the Shrine Palace.
Not a leader with horrible pastimes.
The official report that he gives was that when him and his men kicked in the door, Paulus was engaged in some form of horrific blasphemous act and had to be put down. After which, Vandire declared himself as the new ecclesiarch, which effectively gained him control of both the Administratum and the Ministorum, which at this point in time made him the most powerful man the Imperium had ever seen next to the Emperor himself. He then set about on a crusade against the ecclesiarchy, purging any groups that would—
That guy! The one who I said with the hair, he looked like the mayor of Whoville. That's who he reminded me of. The mayor of Whoville. Continue.
Deny his claim as ecclesiarch. Now, even before this happened, Vandire was known for being unstable, despite the fact that he was definitely shrewd and cunning. But from this point forward, his insanity would begin to increase exponentially. He was known to frequently go into bouts of madness, where he would frantically spout gibberish and have full-blown arguments with himself. If anyone overheard this and asked questions, he would claim that the Emperor was speaking directly to him. Or if he couldn't be bothered, he would just have them assassinated. He would appoint either other equally insane individuals that believed in him, or weak-willed people that he could control, into positions of power to further spread his dominance over the Imperium. And I know this is a Sisters of Battle video, and I just spent a whole bunch of time talking about specifically not the Sisters of Battle, so thankfully, to get back on topic, this is where they enter the picture.
Okay, thank you. We spent a lot of time on a man. Vandire's reign over the Imperium is known as the Reign of Blood in Warhammer 40k, which probably tells you everything you need to know about him. Yeah. Bro is called Goj Vandire. Who thought it was a good idea? Also true. That guy did look like a who. Also true. Kana hears a who. Kana saw a who. Right there. Call Horton.
Time that one of Vandire's scribes informed him of a religious sect of warrior women known as the Daughters of the Emperor, in a little-known backwater agri world known as San Lior. These women were said to have remarkable military prowess, and were fully 100% dedicated to the worship of the Emperor. Vandire and his armies went to San Lior to see the women for himself. When they arrived, him and the great retinue of soldiers and war machines marched onto the small town the women called home. At the gates, he demanded to be let inside, but the daughters proclaimed to him that they answered only to the Emperor himself, and would open the
Yeah,
gates
tell
for
him.
no man. Now, just
Yeah.
about everyone who
Yeah, tell him. We open the gates for no man unless you're the emperor. Get out of here, Doge Von Goge. The evilest name I've ever heard. Is it? Well, Sisters Highs up for Arcane. Yahoo. Hi, Sierra. Yahoo. Witch King energy. Crazy. No man except the man himself. Exactly. No mortal man.
who knew Van Dyer was 100% ready for him to explode into one of his crazed fits of rage. But seemingly
Hello? What happened? 3706. Hold on.
dedicated to the worship of the Emperor.
Okay.
Van Dyer and his armies went to San
We're here.
Lior to see the women for himself. When
We are watching Weshammer's Sisters of Battle Deep Dive. Gooch Van Dyke, yes, whatever his name is.
they arrived, him and the great retinue of soldiers and war machines marched onto the small town the women called home. At the gates, he demanded to be let inside, but the daughters proclaimed to him that they answered only to the Emperor himself and would open the gates
That's
for
this
no man.
guy.
Now, just about everyone who knew Van Dyer was
Oh,
100% ready
this
for
is
him to
fine.
explode into
Okay.
one of his crazed fits of rage. But seemingly out of character, he smiled and was incredibly calm.
He
He said,
smiled.
I can prove to you that the Emperor speaks through me. Will you hear me out? The gate master relayed this information to the daughters, and they agreed to let him and a small contingency of his men inside. He was met by Alicia Dominica, the leader of the daughters, and
Alicia.
the women that she led. He pulled out his rosary holding it in his hand. He told one of them to shoot him in the chest. He said the Emperor will not allow me to be harmed. His request was granted, and a las pistol shot was fired at him. There was a great blinding white light that consumed Van Dyer's entire physical form. And when the light dissipated, Van Dyer stood there unharmed. The daughters dropped to their knees and sweared loyalty to him, seeing him as a messiah figure of the god they worshipped. Now, none of this is true. Van Dyer was a madman, but he could be incredibly convincing when he wanted to be. The Rosarius was a personal refractor field, a force field-like device. No one on this backwater world had ever seen such a thing, so he used this to deceive them. And surprising
Oh, he's a trickster using science. That little frick. That little frick. I'd shoot him again. Just to make sure. How many charges does that shield have? I'd shoot him 5 times. Are you sure the Emperor won't get you? He won't let you die, you sure? Boop, 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 boop. You still boop. You still alive? Okay, now I believe you. Hello? Jeebus. Damn, they were quick though, but I understand. They'd never seen this kind of trickery and sorcery before. But still, I don't know. Someone telling me they're coming here with the Emperor, I'm shooting 5 times. Also, what do they shoot with? Plasma? Shoot with Melta. Girl, shoot with the Holy Trinity before I let that man in here. He ran into my bullets. He stood still into my bullets. He was, if I'm evil, let God strike me down right now. See, I must be approved by God. Okay, but God can strike multiple times, okay? We only struck once.
absolutely no one. The degenerate renamed them from the daughters of the Emperor to the brides of the Emperor.
Brides!
He used them as his personal retinue and bodyguard from that point forward. The bride's martial prowess was beyond exceptional, having no fear due to their unshakable faith. And when combined with the ornate and high-tech weaponry funded by the ecclesiarchy and the administratum's coffers, they were an incredibly deadly fighting force to behold, and would end up defending him against several different assassination attempts. What followed next was a
But, why are there assassination attempts if the Emperor won't allow him to die? Hello? Did we ever stop to think about that, girlies? If the Emperor didn't want him to die, no one would be trying to assassinate him and you don't have to protect him. What the heck? Come on. Don't let a man cloud your judgment on your faith. Let me speak a sermon to the sisters, or the brides, or whoever. It's Alaska and it doesn't have a magazine. Mag dumps onto it anyways, exactly. You're making too much sense. Stop it. Nah! Nah! These are women in STEM. We gotta be using our thinking skills.
dark period within the Imperium's history, marked by war and famine. where Vandire unleashed his armies against anyone and everyone for even the slightest of offenses. And many referred to his rule as the Reign of Blood. The Imperium seemed doomed
Reign of
to
Blood.
repeat the mistakes of the past, and once again was in peril of collapsing. This was a period where every faction within the Imperium ended up getting sucked in by Vandire's madness, and at one point, a combined force of Adeptus Mechanicus, as well as 4 chapters of the Space Marines belonging to the Imperial Fists, the Firehawks, the Soul Drinkers, and the Black Templar, began to attack the Ecclesiarchal Palace. Their goal, to rid the Imperium of Vandire's tyranny. But this is a video about the sisters, so we're gonna skip ahead to where they come in. As in a twist of fate, it would be the brides of the Emperor who would end up putting down the tyrant themselves. You see, the only Imperial faction who really hadn't gotten involved at this point were the Custodians. They didn't really consider themselves part of the Imperium. They were soldiers and guardians of the Emperor and the Emperor alone, choosing not to involve themselves in the machinations of the Imperium unless they deemed it the God Emperor's will to do so. But as the true scope of Vandire's Reign of Blood became apparent to them, they couldn't stand by idly anymore. A group of the Custodians made their way inside Vandire's palace, where they were eventually intercepted by the brides of the Emperor. Some accounts state that the brides dueled with the Custodians, while others state only Mina,
These ones are women,
of Dominica, fought the lead custodian, Longinus, to a standstill. Other accounts state that only mere threats were leveled at one another. Whatever the case may be, Longinus sought to prevent any further bloodshed than necessary, and asked the sisters for a parley. In doing this, he ordered the other custodians to stand down and lay down their weapons. He spoke with the women, attempting to appeal to their faith, that Vandire was nothing but a bloodthirsty tyrant, and the Emperor would have never ordained something as vile as his reign. The brides were not swayed by this. Their faith was unbreakable and were prepared to fight.
Oh, now they're not swayed. Now they're not swayed. Literally, the Emperor's golden boys come in and tell you the Emperor does not want this. And they're like, I don't know, we shot him once a few years ago and he didn't die. Girlies.
Him to the death. As seeing no other option, the custodian made one more attempt to convince them, leaving the men under his control as hostages. He took Alicia and her 5 personal bodyguards through a series of secret underground passages that led to the Imperial Palace. The women that accompanied her were named Catherine, Lucia, Mina, Silvana, and Arabella. And remember their names, because they're going to be important later. His goal was to...
We have to remember their names. Do it again.
Imperial Palace.
Write this down.
The women that accompanied her were named Catherine, Lucia, Mina, Silvana, and Arabella.
Arabella. Catherine, Lucia, Mina, Silvana, Arabella. Catherine, Lucia, Mina, Sylvia, Arabella. Okay. Catherine, Lucia, Mina, Silvana, Arabella. Got it. And I got their names and I got their numbers.
Remember their names, because they're going to be important later. His goal was to bring them before the Emperor himself. And I can't accurately put into words what a big deal that is. No one had been permitted audience with the Emperor's body in thousands of years. The custodians were offering these women the opportunity to literally stand before
oh my gosh, that's huge.
God. Now, what exactly happened that fateful day inside the walls of the Sanctorum Imperialis is known only to those 6 women and the God Emperor himself. But when they emerged, it was said that their eyes burned with anger and wrath. Dominica proclaimed Vandire as a monster, a heretic, a twisted blasphemer that had corrupted not only the ecclesiarchy, but the sacred order of the daughters themselves. They had been used and shamed by the epitome of filth and swore vengeance upon him. They cast off the moniker of brides and once again became the daughters of the Emperor. Longinus led them back to the shrine, and the women broke into Vandire's office. Alicia unsheathed her power sword and issued an impassioned decree of heresy at him. You have committed the ultimate heresy. Not only have you turned your back on the Emperor and stepped from his light, you have profaned his name and almost destroyed everything he has driven to build. You have perverted and twisted the path he has laid for mankind to tread. As your own decrees have stated, there can be no mercy for such a crime, no pity for such a criminal. I renounce your lordship. You walk in the darkness and cannot be allowed to live. Your sentence has been long overdue, and now it is time for you to die.
Get his ass!
Vandire is an absolute monster, a reprehensible character. But his final words here were actually kind of amazing. Absolutely out of his mind and completely divorced from reality, he stared her down and proclaimed, I don't have time to die. I'm far too busy. Alicia swung her sword, beheading the tyrant and thus ending the Reign of Blood. With the end of Vandire's reign, the Imperium...
Yeah, make time, bitch! Hello? You don't have time to die? I won't make it for you. Ugh. Yeah, where's your freaking shield now, huh? Character names are the most important thing in Warhammer 40k lore. I love learning about names. I know there was a video that somebody recommended before about, like, names. We'll definitely get into that. I don't know, we got some good recommendations. We got how orcs think about other people. Names. Yeah. Important note, approaching the Emperor is actually quite difficult. Even Custodes struggle to enter the room, and Alicia just went in and heard his voice. And she's saying, those 6 are Elden Ring bosses? Oh, well, you look at that. I like what Tyranids think about other beings. Food. Edible. Tyranids would be banned in this chat because they think I'm food. Fantastical final words, but perhaps the worst person to give them. True. F that guy. I'll make time, sir. The hell? Wait, so what is that? Why does he like feet? Hello? Nothing explained to me why he liked feet. He just likes them. Okay. Okay. Cool. So he's crazy. He blackmailed. He lied. He cheated. He stole. He betrayed. He deceived. And he likes feet. You can answer that for yourself. He banned his personal guard from wearing shoes. Okay, now that's a piece of information. I like how the art of the 6 main sisters, they have golden halos around their heads. It's a Christian thing where only people like Jesus and the holiest saints like Joan of Arc. Oh, because they're holy. Many species, including humans, think Khan is edible. They're all wrong.
To piece itself back together. A man named Sebastian Thor would end up becoming the new ecclesiarch. And he had actually met with the surviving members of the Confederation of Light, the target of the ecclesiarch's first holy war. Their humble vision of emperor worship would end up replacing that of the Temple of the Holy Savior's theology. Thor would go on to severely limit the church's power, and once again, separated it from the Administratum. The Ministorum from that point forward would still be a powerful organization within the Imperium, but it wouldn't be completely dominating. He would also go on to limit the church's military power by disbanding the Frateris Templar and issuing a decree that said that the church would have no men under arms from this point forward. A cleverly disguised loophole, as he replaced the previous military powers of the ecclesiarchy with the daughters of the emperor, who from that point forward would be known as the Adepta Sororitas, and whose militant order would be collectively referred to as the Sisters of Battle. And just a quick footnote here, the no men under arms thing is kinda old lore at this point, and in more recent interpretations of this time, Thor seems to still hold that limiting the church's military might is incredibly important, but instead of them existing through a loophole, he sees the sisters as a necessity and that their skills must be utilized for the good of humanity. Events like this in 40k normally have a whole bunch of different interpretations.
So women are so badass that the sisters have to stay girly pops. Heard. And that's what they're saying with that. Yep, that's what they're saying. Translated, you're welcome.
The good of humanity. Events like this in 40k normally have a whole bunch of different interpretations, so whichever one you choose to believe in this particular instance is totally up to you. After this, the Sisters of Battle led by Dominica and her 5 bodyguards would take part in many new wars of faith, spreading the Emperor's light to the dark corners of the galaxy, and swearing oaths to destroy the heretic, the witch, and the mutant, wherever it may appear. They were provided incredibly powerful weaponry, and would end up becoming some of the staunchest defenders of mankind that had ever existed. After a point, Dominica oversaw a reformation of her sisterhood, as she wanted to prevent another ecclesiarch who would arise in the future from having full control over the Adepta Sororitas. The forces were split between Terra and the ecclesiarchy's former seat of power, Ophelia 7, and this would end up creating 2 separate covenants. Covenant Prioris, that was based on Terra, and Covenant Sanctorum, based on Ophelia 7. Each of the covenants was absolutely massive, housing tens of thousands of sisters, with
that's
more
a
and
lot
more
of girls
recruits joining over time. After Sebastian Thor ended up passing away, at the ripe old age of 112, His successors would follow in his wake and over time declare that the two covenants be split into smaller militant orders, as each of them continued to grow larger and larger. It was Dominica herself who first established the sisterhood, and when the first splitting was ordained, in the year 378 of the 36th millennia, she would become the canoness of the First Order Militant of Covenant Prioris, the Order of the Ebon Chalice. The same year, Catherine would become the founder of the Order of the Fiery Heart, which would eventually be renamed to the Order of Our Martyred Lady with her death. Lucia would go on to found the Order of the Valorous Heart, while Savannah founded the Order of the Argent Shroud. Almost 2,000 years later, after Dominica and all 5 of her bodyguards had long since passed away, and had officially been declared as saints by the ecclesiarchy, in the 38th millennia, the two covenants would split one more time. Covenant Sanctorum would create the Order of the Bloody Rose, founded in honor of their patron saint Mina, and Covenant Prioris would create the Order of the Sacred Rose, named in honor of their patron saint Arabella. By the time of the 41st...
Okay, so all of the girly pops who saw the Emperor became patron saints. They had their own little squads of girlies. Heard. Sisters aren't celibate. Yes, I learned they can have children. Think of the pressure of being a child of a sister. Crazy. Please, GW, I beg of you, please keep it that way. Let the badass ladies stay badass ladies, and my life and wallet is yours. Yes, stay badass ladies, and then get the badass ladies at Zephyr Arcade using code ssakanasushi for 10% off. Yes, yes, yes.
First millennium, all of these orders have existed for thousands of years, and all of which have incredibly unique histories, cultures, and ways of conducting war. So let's talk about each one of them. The Order of the Martyred Lady is by far the most numerous and widespread of all of the orders militant of the Adepta Sororitas. They have sworn an oath of vengeance to hunt down the heretic wherever it rears its head, from the galaxy's core to the galactic rim. Although all sisters have been taught that a death fighting in the Emperor's name is a glorious thing, the Sisters of our Martyred Lady take this much further. So much so that their fearlessness in battle can often be mistaken as a death wish, as the order has developed what seems to be a cult of martyrdom. Such a sister will stand defiantly against the enemies of the Emperor, with bolter in hand and revving chainswords, shouting hymns to the God Emperor as they slay heretics, Xenos, and mutant alike. When she dies, her death will be met with cheers from her surviving sisters, as to witness such a glorious and heroic death is a gift that should be celebrated. The surviving sisters will fight harder and faster, as the Emperor's gaze will be drawn to the battlefield, and miracles that can only be explained as such will begin to manifest for the warriors she left behind, swiftly turning the tide of battle in the sisters' favor. To the ignorant of
beautiful, wonderful women. Are the sisters single, Miss Sushi? They're not celibate. I don't know if they can marry. I don't know. How do you be a successful husband of a sister? Okay, she has stuff to do. She's out there. Her greatest achievement would be to die for the Emperor. Okay, how do you do that? How do you be like, okay, honey, see you after the war. I love you. How do you do that? You pack her little bento boxes to go before she gets out there to sacrifice her life to save her sisters and to have the Emperor's gaze upon the battlefield? Huh? That's hard. They're out here doing other stuff, okay? I don't know if they're ready to be wives. Not sure how many people in the battlefield get married, but they have partners. Hey, and maybe they have multiple partners, okay? Get in there. The hubby knows he's secondary to Big E. Have you ever dated a K-pop fan? It's exactly like that. It's exactly like that. Assume a husband! Wait, what if the sisters marry the other sisters? Because no man is good enough for them except the Emperor. That's beautiful. Big E equals BTS. Now it's clicking. Now it's clicking. Good luck raising up the sisters because Big E is your competition. Exactly. She will take no man, but she will take every sister. Let's freaking go. Ba, 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 ba. Marriages between the sisters happen. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Then they don't need to worry about having their little child. Yes, the sisters have boy toys. You sign up now to be a boy toy of a sister battle. Sign up now.
Observer, the way the Sisters of the Martyred Lady fight may seem unorganized and a bit chaotic. It is said they spread across the battlefield like wildfire, units spreading in every direction, with bolter and flamer in hand. Their fighting style, however chaotic it may seem, leads them to be incredibly quick and efficient, and they are able to switch tactics in but a moment, keeping the enemy confused and not knowing exactly how to react. The reality is that these women are incredibly disciplined, and they follow the teachings of St. Catherine to a letter, a woman who was a devout student of not just the imperial faith, but of military doctrines as well. Whereas the Order of the Martyred Lady practices the Emperor's vengeance, the Order of the Valorous Heart is one that's much more representative of his stoicism and forbearance. Their founder and matriarch, Lucia, was said to be the opposite of St. Catherine. Whereas Catherine was characterized by her burning passion, Lucia was stoic, level-headed, and calculating. Her and the sister...
Wait, they do have to worry? What are they worrying about? Where do we sign up to be a boy toy for the Sisters of Battles? Asking for a friend? Well, let your friend know that they just need to sing out loud so the sisters may hear. I'm the friend. So the sisters may hear. The best way to spread the Emperor's cheer is singing loud for all to hear. I did not rip that off of Elf. That's literally what the sisters say. The life of the average person in Warhammer 40k is rather short, so it's more about who dies first. And that's beautiful. You know what? And that's gorgeous. Okay, we're in a Twitch ad break. Give me 1 second to get a new fizzy. Look at this woman. I did finish some Sisters for the Wifey, only half the combat control. Ooh. Okay, I am manifesting building some sisters way down the line after we get through my orcs. I feel like I gotta build up to them. You know what I'm saying?
Sisters that would follow in her path would be an immovable, unbreakable and characterized by her burning passion. Lucia was stoic, level-headed, and calculating. Her and the sisters that would follow in her path would be an immovable, unbreakable anvil to complement the fiery, crushing hammer of St. Catherine's order. Through Lucia's teachings, her sisters would forever have to carry a great burden and would never be allowed to forget the sins of their ancestors, the brides of the Emperor. Because of their mistakes, they would have to live a life of penance, which took the form of aggressively seeking
non-intergenerational trauma
and marked by a lack of faith. Planets that had been entirely consumed by witchcraft and chaotic cults. And through the fires of war would they systematically grind them down. In battle, the Order of the Valorous Heart employs a number of tactics designed to cripple their enemy's supply lines and infrastructure, choosing to target the means of production, and systematically destroying fuel reserves, poison water supplies, and burst any pipelines containing radioactive or hazardous material. In addition, they would seek to destroy any food supplies, including plants and animals that their enemies could gain sustenance from, transforming the environment into a barren and hostile wasteland, locking the enemy in place and pushing their offensive lines. They would do this to grind them down in a war of attrition, a style of battle that the Valorous Heart is incredibly skilled in. And the way St. Lucia would end up gaining martyrdom was by meeting a terrible fate, as she was captured by heretics and tortured for a long period of time, having her eyes gouged out and being forced to listen to the suffering of everyone else the cult had captured. She stoically endured countless agonies until eventually succumbing to her injuries. The cult would then begin to spread the rumor that in her final moments, she had renounced her faith and rejected the God Emperor. Their triumphant mockery was short-lived, as her fellow sisters then spent the next several decades hunting down every last one of them.
Yeah, you freaking wish that's what she did. There's no freaking way. We don't care about your nonsense. You could torture her for years. She'd never do that. Try again, nerd.
As her fellow sisters then spent the next several decades hunting down every last one of them.
Yeah,
what the
get
sisters
'em
ended
all.
up doing with
Get
the
their
captured
ass.
cultists is unknown. However, it is said that ever since that day, deep within the undercrofts of their sanctuary, the sisters have been putting their knowledge of life extension and pain enhancement to great use. The women of the Valorous Heart wear their battle scars with pride, as through pain and suffering, they feel a closeness to their matriarch, enduring just a sliver of what she must have had to go through. It is said that they never use anything to reduce the pain of their injuries, because to do so would be seen as hypocritical, as Lucia had taught them that through their faith in the Emperor, they could overcome any amount of suffering. The Order of the Bloody Rose, founded in the name of Saint Mina, represents the embodiment of the Emperor's hatred and anger towards heretics. They do not exist to save the innocents of the Imperium, nor do they care for the ramification of their bloody and violent crusades. They exist only to slaughter the guilty. Since the beginning, the Order of the Bloody Rose has been seen as a sisterhood of executioners. Now, normally when the sisters of other orders are deployed to a world in order to purge it of heretics, in their wake would be members from the Order Hospitaller and Dialogus, the former bringing aid to the wounded civilians of the world, and the latter to catalog and record the events of the battle, and thus the subsequent liberation of the planet. When they would follow the Sisters of the Bloody Rose, they would find nothing but death and destruction. So clinical was their righteous butchery that the sisters wouldn't even stop for but a moment to set free their enemies' captives. Their only mission, to cleanse the world through blood and fire. Using the blood of her fallen sisters, the Canoness Superior known as Saint Mari would end up penning an article known as the Thorn Treatise. In this document, she declared that the path of the least evil lies always in the swift obliteration of those who oppose the faith. Mercy in any form must come after the venting of righteous anger. The sisters of this order are taught to harness all of their violent tendencies in anger. Every feeling of hatred or impulse to enact violence is seen as a valuable tool to be unleashed upon the enemies of their faith. Whereas other orders
Redirecting
participate
anger.
in silent contemplation and prayer, the sanctuaries of the Bloody Rose are instead filled with the righteous bellowing of litanies at the top of their lungs, each verse dripping with rage. The order has an affinity for close combat, often utilizing tactics and maneuvers to bait their enemies into overextending, before spinning about and slamming into them, crashing into the enemy lines and crushing them under their boots. To the outside
Step
observer,
on
this
'em.
may look like a bunch of blood-crazed barbarians drunk on slaughter, but the reality is that they are incredibly disciplined, and that hatred and anger is something that they have learned to hone and unleash only at the moment before a strike. Through this, they can throw bare-fisted blows that shatter skulls and explode organs. The Order of the Bloody Rose believes that only by spilling the blood of the unfaithful shall a world be purified once again. The Order of the Ebon Chalice was the first order of the Sisters of Battle, and was founded by none other than their matriarch, Alicia Dominica, the woman who executed Van Dyke
Alicia!
and ended his reign of blood. Whereas other orders reject their ancestors or see the mistakes as something that requires a lifetime of penance, the Order of the Ebon Chalice seeks to adhere strictly to their teachings, only deviating from them to incorporate more modern weaponry and armor, and has a great deal of respect and veneration for the original teachings of the Daughters of the Emperor, from before Van Dyke corrupted their order. Dominica was so deeply respected that all of the Sisters of the Ebon Chalice wished to do all they could to emulate her greatness. As the executioner of Van Dyke, she was seen as the God Emperor's champion. Now, where they get their name from is actually pretty interesting. You see, there was this ancient artifact known as the Grail of Ages that Dominica herself would carry into battle. It was a black goblet that was said to represent her communion with the Emperor. There are very few records that exist that tell exactly what this relic was capable of, many of which making seemingly impossible claims. One account says that during one battle in particular, the energy of the Grail was unleashed, and every single psyker on the entire planet, not just on the battlefield, the entire planet, immediately burst into flames. There's another account of a different battle that states that Dominica poured out the contents of the goblet, and when she did this, the Emperor was able to speak through her. He uttered but a single word, but there was so much psychic power behind its syllables that an entire army was instantly destroyed. The Sisters of the Ebon Chalice do not speak of the Grail, and if pressed, they say that it is simply a representation of all of the secrets great and terrible that Dominica learned on that fateful day when the Emperor spoke to her.
We don't speak
and
of the
that
Grail.
they and they alone must now be the bearers of that sacred knowledge.
We
And
believe
in order to
in the
protect
Grail.
the secrets of the Grail, the Sisters of the Ebon Chalice will pursue any recorded record of an account of the Grail's existence or its secrets, purging and destroying these records whenever they are found. condemning any of the scribes that penned the work and thus have knowledge of the Grail secrets as heretics. Much like the Order of the Ebon
Ooh, if you
Chalice,
talk about
the
my
Order of
cup,
the Argent Shroud
heretic.
derives its name from an ancient relic. You see, their founder and matriarch, Saint Sylvana, ended up getting murdered before she could unleash her first ever War of Faith. Now, this is an event that is shrouded in mystery.
Okay. I like his way of presenting things. I wish there were clearer segues and transitions into the different orders. But I'm following along. That was the cup. We are now in the shroud.
Up getting murdered before she could unleash her first ever War of Faith. Now, this is an event that is shrouded in mystery, and even to this day, it remains kind of unclear what exactly happened to her. But most accounts make mention of some kind of assassin. Now, the most credible stories say that the assassination attempt was not meant for her, but for Dominica herself, and Sylvana, the ever-loyal bodyguard, threw herself in between Dominica and the killer, sacrificing herself so that the Emperor's Chosen could live on. And super mysteriously, 7 days after her body was laid to rest, she suddenly vanished. The only thing left being a
Where'd she
ghostly imprint of her
go?
skeleton on her death shroud. Nowadays, this shroud is considered a holy relic to the Sisters, and it's where the order gets their name. The Sisters of this order believe that actions speak louder than words, and through great deeds are spirits purified. Their founder was said to be remarkably brave, constantly throwing herself into danger in order to protect those around her. Now, interestingly enough, not a single account of her ever speaking exists. There are no transcriptions or even written documents from her, and the order emulates this by going through long periods of silence, speaking only to pray or sing hymns. Now, their prayers differ from that of their sisters in other orders, where they don't really ask for the Emperor's blessing or protection, choosing instead to use these moments to proclaim their imminent deeds that they will perform in his name. Even outside of these periods of silence, the women of this order seldom ever speak, even to convey tactics amongst their allies, something that makes fighting by their side incredibly difficult for many armies outside of the order. They choose to
Guess what happens if you have an artifact from a god that never wanted to be one in the first place, but has received power from zealous assassination of psychers? You know what? Fair. Bro, I forgot how Hard Sisters lore goes. What do you mean the little black goblet you drink from allows you to confer with the God Emperor himself and explode every psyker on the planet as a result? Hey! Big cup. Big cup. Leader transitions? Okay, I'll put away the chainsaw. No one's switching teams today. Put them away, boys. Weshammer's not my personal favorite. It feels like a word salad and not epic enough. I like the way... I like his reading style. That is appealing to me. Some of the other Warhammer YouTubers' reading style doesn't seem as natural to me. It's just, I guess I'm so much of a visual learner. I like the transitions. Like, I know some people have like just a whole transition, not a slide. It's not a slideshow, but like just a picture. Yeah. That's why I'm also exploring a lot of different folks too, to see their different styles. And why we would normally watch more than one video per reaction video, but this one's an hour long, and we are basically 2 hours and we're not done yet. So yeah. The good thing about the word salad is that the words are coming across clear and I understand what he's saying. If this was the morning and I had my coffee, I'd be locked in.
instead trust in the divine guide side incredibly difficult for many armies outside of the order. They choose to instead trust in the divine guidance of the Emperor rather than formulating complex plans and stratagems. And it may seem counterintuitive, but it actually kind of tends to be quite effective, as the sisters throw themselves into battle against much larger armies and are able to smash through defensive formations and weather the barrage of gunfire and artillery batteries, almost as if the guidance of the Emperor is allowing them to act on an instinctive level to support one another. The Argent Shroud is famously known for speedy assaults and specialize in hit-and-run style tactics. Their strike comes as fast as lightning, followed by a rapid withdrawal, leaving their enemy shaken and unable to reorganize before the sisters regroup and hit them again. They have a reputation as some of the deadliest shock troops within the entire Adepta Sororitas, and much like their beloved matriarch, their faith ends up shining even brighter when surrounded by enemies, as every single one of them would throw themselves in harm's way in order to protect her fellow sisters, just like their patron saint Mina would have done. Whereas the other orders that we have spoken about seem pretty brutal in how they wage war and interpret the will of the Emperor, the Order of the Sacred Rose stands aside from the rest of them and represents the Emperor's hope.
Now we're on the rose. Now on the rose. See, That transition from Shroud to Rose. When you read stuff, it feels really monotone. There isn't really a shift in tone or inflation through the video, and it tends to tire me in the long run. You see, you say that, but I've watched other videos and other YouTubers who have even more of a monotone tone. So I'm not picking that up from Wes. And that's refreshing for me, especially in a 1-hour video. It doesn't make it better. In comparison, kind of. They can't do it all, as someone said earlier. They can't do it all, but I appreciate each and every one for what they do and how they do it. Just for me as the listener, I would rate this presentation of information higher than other ones that I've seen, with the caveat that my little fish brain would require title screens or something. Pictures. Put pictures in here. Hi, a frog with a knife. Yeah.
Hope for mankind. They sing songs of hope and salvation rather than that of holy wrath. The women of the Sacred Rose believe that only through faith is victory achieved. If somebody's faith is strong enough, they can do the impossible. They can bend the laws of the universe and command the stars themselves to destroy the enemies of mankind. They believe that every battle they have ever or will ever participate in has been preordained according to the Emperor's great plan, that their victory was completely and utterly inevitable. Now, even in the event of their death, the Sisters of this order believe that a single martyr can ignite the fires of faith in thousands of souls, their hearts and minds coming together in a force more powerful than any weapon that has ever existed. Arabella, their matriarch, was an incredibly calm and serene woman, with a demeanor that would never falter even in the face of the untold horrors of the galaxy.
Okay. Alicia, Lucia, Catherine, Mina, Sylvana, Arabella. I still got it. Okay.
Calm and serene woman, with a demeanor that would never falter even in the face of the untold horrors of the galaxy. It is said that if it had not been for her, the original meeting between Dominica and the custodians may have ended in bloodshed. It was her serene tranquility and the ability to touch the hearts of all of those around her that set in motion the events that would see mankind freed from the reign of blood. It was Arabella's mission to break the shackles of fear and doubt that bound the faithful and set free humanity from the corrupting nature of the heretic. Now, when she lived amongst the stars, it was only the foolish and ignorant that would mistake her serenity for weakness, as there are a lot of accounts of heretics literally exploding the moment her eyes fell upon them. To the heretic, beholding her radiant glory in its true form was so incredible that it caused their eyes to melt from their skulls.
I like
of
it.
All of the saints, it's possibly Arabella that ended up performing the most miracles during her lifetime. The sisters of her order set forth, bringing salvation to the previously held worlds of the faithful that had long since been thought lost to the darkness. The Sacred Rose would crusade to these worlds and butcher the cabals and cults that kept its citizens in chains. When the sisters of this order marched to war, they do so to the combined song of thousands of their voices, singing beautiful hymns to the Emperor, hymns that raise the spirits of the true believers and induce an overwhelming feeling of dread and despair in the heretic. Recorded instances of miracles occurring are a really big deal, and out of all the orders, the Sisters of the Sacred Rose tend to see them manifested most often. Since this happens so regularly within the order, many members of the ecclesiarchy will often follow them into battle, eager to witness the hand of the Emperor working through his daughters firsthand. Now, on one hand, this may seem a little bit frustrating to have a whole bunch of taggers-on, untrained priests and scholars following true warriors into battle. But Arabella taught her sisters that the Emperor often acts through the least of his servants. So great was she that the unwashed masses came to her in droves, and through her faith, she would turn these groups into true armies of indomitable warriors, even though most of them had never held a weapon before. Because of her radiance, these men and women were ready to stand and fight for their world. The Order of the Sacred Rose stands as a beacon of hope in a galaxy that always seems on the brink of collapsing. They stand ready to protect the faithful, and somehow seem able to appear whenever and wherever they are needed, even if a distress signal was never issued. Now, many would question how such a thing is even possible, but the faithful
just
know
believe
the truth. And as I mentioned earlier, the Sororitas is not just a military organization.
Just believe, and that's how it happens. Have you reacted to the Hammer and Bolter series yet? I have not. What kind of series is it? Okay, now we're moving into non-military.
the
I don't know
truth.
why I said it with that intonation. Military, 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 military.
And as I mentioned earlier, the Sororitas is not just a military organization. They have many non-combat orders as well, such as the Orders Hospitaller, Famulus, and Dialogus. The Order Hospitaller provides nurses, surgeons, and doctors to every branch of the Imperium's military, taking to the most grueling of battlefields in order to cauterize wounds and saw off gangrenous limbs. They show the Emperor's mercy and compassion to the faithful, taking care to heal the wounds of those that would fight in the Emperor's name. They are some of the best medical specialists in the Imperium, and aside from their role in the battlefield, also house and catalog truly enormous libraries of medical knowledge, not just on human anatomy, but additionally on the anatomy of every known Xeno species, as well as the inner workings of all of the weapons that they utilize against the forces of mankind.
The sisters have a library for orcs. I love it. And this is how I bridge my orc to sister pipeline.
In order to better understand how to heal the wounds inflicted by such terrible instruments of war. Their extensive knowledge on the anatomy of Xenos is incredibly important when it comes to developing new ways to fight them. And on a slightly darker note, confessors and inquisitors from the ecclesiarchy will often utilize their medical expertise in their interrogations, healing any injuries the interrogator may inflict on an individual expected of heresy. They'll literally surgically reattach limbs and heal mortal wounds just for the interrogator to sever or rupture them again. The combination of both of these individuals' particular skill sets being more than enough to draw out a confession from even the most stoic and resilient of heretics. Now, the sisters that serve within the Order of Dialogus are trained scholars, advisors, and translators of every text imaginable, whether that be of the various human languages that have been found throughout the galaxy in the present and in ancient texts, but also in the heretical writings of aliens and chaos worshippers. Their life is dedicated to collecting as many pieces of ancient scripture as they can, as there is always a chance that some ancient alien species cataloged even the briefest of encounters with the Emperor. And the acquisition of such a text, even if it offers only the slightest glimpse into His Majesty, is a holy quest of great importance. All of the texts that the Dialogus encounter are translated into High Gothic. They're incredibly skilled and have built a massive library of knowledge on every enemy the sisters have ever encountered. They are incredibly adept at finding threats in seemingly innocuous and benign symbolism and messages.
Wait, so if someone wrote a truer account of the Emperor and gave it to the sisters, would they have a better chance of relaying that? Or no? Because they're looking for anything, right? So if Gilliman were to be like, hey, actually Lorgar wrote those big texts that you guys all like, here's something else, here's a little something I wrote about, actually encountering my father. Do you think they'd be receptive? Have we tried this?
The heretic is incredibly clever and doesn't necessarily just spell out their evil plans on paper for all to see. The Sisters of Order Famulus are skilled diplomats and advisors. Their silver tongue and incredible ability to network allows them to connect with the noble families of the Imperium and keep them united in a common cause of doing the most good for the Imperium whenever possible. They play a critical role in brokering deals and agreements between a vast array of powerful households and factions, overseeing the negotiations around supply lines, mining operations, formation of fighting forces, arranged marriages between powerful families, and just about anything else you can think of. They are women that pull on the strings of the Imperium's aristocracy and ensure that each and every noble household has everything that they will need if they are called upon to fight and die in the Emperor's name. Because these women have immediate access to so many powerful people, they also serve the role of being spies and informants for the ecclesiarchy, keeping a watchful eye on all the pieces on the board. It is they who know if a player in the great game makes an illegal move or tries to do.
Oh, there's still a risk of them being called a heretic. Heard. So how do they separate that? They want any piece of information on the Emperor, even if it comes from other factions. How do they separate the new pieces of information with, like, reliable sources? How do they source and fact check in the Imperium?
Do anything that would go against the ecclesiarchy's goals, whether that take the form of espionage, squandering of resources, or even full-blown heresy. Without the women of Famulus, treachery may be allowed to fester and grow until it is too late to be stopped. And although not normally given a lot of attention, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of smaller orders within the Sororitas as well. They don't often get focused on, as their roles don't tend to have a major impact on the macro setting. One such order is known as Order Fenestris, whose entire order is dedicated to the humble task in maintaining the illuminated armor glass panes of most of the holy shrines and cathedrals found within the Imperium, which may not seem like much, but it's definitely a holy task and a noble profession. And I'm sure the God Emperor appreciates all of their fine work. Whether or not the Emperor...
Their task is to maintain glass. The other girlies kick ass and they maintain glass. Crazy. Crazy.
has truly become a god, or even if he was all along, despite his claims to the contrary, is a much debated fact within the Warhammer 40k community. Regardless of the truth, it is irrelevant, for the entirety of the Adepta Sororitas believes it to be so. They are his holy warriors, his righteous will made manifest. They relentlessly crusade across the galaxy, suffering not the unclean to live. They will stand as defenders of mankind, a physical incarnation of his holy light. No matter how dark things get, no matter how hopeless it seems, hope remains alive in the faithful, because they know they can rely upon the sisters to deliver them salvation. Their wars of faith will continue for thousands of years to come, their righteous work never ending, so long as the heretic, the witch, the alien, and the mutant continue to draw breath and threaten the Emperor's kingdom through the sin of existence. One by one, they will be hunted down and destroyed, purged in his name. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, then consider dropping a like on it and subscribing to the channel. If you're watching...
Wow, thank you, Weshammer. You should also like, subscribe, and follow my channel. I love them. The faithful never sleep. I think the sisters go through combat training no matter what their job is. They all just be out here training. And that's fair, and as they should. Love that for them. Hammer and Bolter is available on Dailymotion with only minor ads, and each episode is around 20 minutes long. Who made Hammer and Bolter? Who made that? This was great. This was beautiful. We don't have a Patreon. Thank you, Weshammer. Okay. Order of our Martyred Lady. Valorous Heart, Bloody Road, Yvonne Chalice, Argent Shroud, and Sacred Rose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Heard. That's great. I would want to learn more about them still. Did he talk about Sister Cecilia? Briefly, maybe? There's a lot of information. Also, the sisters that take care of the relics went to the fallen Cadia to collect them. Oh, relics in glass! Relics in glass! Cute. He looks so anime. I was wondering why a lot of the art seems to be like in a painted style. But I guess it's to avoid the anime like. It all looks painted, you know? If only Space Marines weren't asexual, the Black Templars and the sisters getting together would solve Warhammer. Would it? What if... Hi, Beppo. What if the sisters' sons grow up to become Space Marines? There was no animation in the Gothic era on Age on Terra. There was only paint. Oh, got it. Those are just the main branches of the Sororitas. There are tons more, like the Astartes chapters of the Guardsmen Regiment. Tons more! Crazy. There's tons more, guys. Okay. So that's good to know. We can go into more of the sisters. We got an introduction to the sisters. And now that I got to know them, love them, obviously. I knew I would. I think I want to stay in this bubble as far as Warhammer 40k goes right now. The orcs, the Space Marines, and the sisters. I think that is the bubble we want to stay in. If you want more women in Warhammer 40k, there's the Custodes and the Sisters of Silence. Numbskulls has episodes on them. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for the super. Yeah. So the Sisters of Silence, I was confused because I thought the Sisters of Silence were part of the Sisters of Battle. But yes, I will look into the Custodes and the Sisters of Silence. Same idea as chapters. You pick what you like and have room to homebrew. Nice, nice, nice. Hammer and Bolter episode 5 is about the Sororitas. Okay, okay. Huge, huge, huge. Sisters of Silence are so cool. I like them. Yeah, so in staying in this little bubble, and then obviously we'll expand more outside, but I think my interests are on the girly pops. My interests are on the girly pops, the orcs, and the Space Marines. Fun fact, they're canonical Chaos Sisters. I do see that. I see that right here on the recommendation is
Out of all the
Weshammer's Chaos Sisters of Battle Deep Dive, which we're not going to watch today because we do not have the time. SOS are a neglected faction, but we could watch on a different time. This is like a 50-minute video. That's going to be another hour, guys. It's crazy. Girly Pop, Fungal Pop, Space Marine Pop. Yes, we're popping. Thank you for the Super Williams. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, so that's where my interest is. Let me know. I think we'll go back to doing a poll for next week, because the last time we did a poll, okay, I really wanted to learn about orcs and I really wanted to learn about girly pops. So I was like, we don't need a poll. I'm just going to do what I want to do. But now that I have like a base understanding about some girly pops, although there are more, which you just said, and we are introduced to the orcs, now we can go back and see which direction you would want. I think that's a good way to consume the lore. People get overwhelmed with lore and tend to not pay attention or forget 5 seconds later. Polls are cursed. Hey, I believe in you guys. Muriel Sabathiel is the most famous one, and she's a boss. Total badass in her story. Chaos Sister, most famous Chaos Sister. Oh. Okay. Yeah. So I'll put the polls more broad, and then we can figure out like orcs, girly pops, and Space Marines. I would like to see a reaction to H&B. When would you want to schedule it? Please put Black Templars as an option. Yes, I am interested in Black Templars. I think Black Templars. I also want to know about the Tech Marines, since the new Space Marine game, Tech Marine, class is out, and I'm enjoying it a lot. We're not watching this. Yeah. So, oh my god, why is my video recommended for me? Hello? If you're watching me, you should go over here and watch me too. Crazy. I can't remember Angron's girly pop ship captain's name. Guys, please help Miko Joe Jones to remember Angron's girly pop ship captain's name. Am I allowed to react to HMB if it's a daily motion thing? I'm always curious about that, because will that flag my channel? You get your own vids recommended. I smell a narcissist. Don't sniff me. There was also a female Space Marine in the Fabius Bile trilogy, a woman who joined the Emperor's Children and worked her way up into leading the 12th Regiment of the Emperor's Children. Oh. Lotara Saren. Scariest woman in War. Scariest woman in Warhammer! I love it. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear. She was a normal human who was so vicious as to impress Angron. Oh. It was Warhammer Plus 2 years ago, and I can watch it right now. And Counterparts has already done a reaction and a remaster's reacted explaining all the things. Okay. So it might be okay. I'll look into it a little bit more just to make sure that they don't kill my YouTube channel. Twitch is fine. I think Twitch won't care. But if they kill the YouTube channel, I'm going to be real sad. Lotara, the only woman who could shoot a World Eater in the face and get away with it. Love that for her. Love hearing about my women in STEM, my women in faith. Love a girly pop. Yeah. I hope you guys liked this video. I was thinking, I mentioned this a couple reaction videos ago, like taking notes, but as I was looking, especially in this video when we were comparing all of the different orders, I was like, oh, what if I had a table? I wish the creator made a table. And then I was like, I could create a table. But then I've thought of this like maybe here, so we were getting too late. And I was like, well, it doesn't make sense to make a table now. But after, maybe the next ones, we can make a table or something, take notes together. Would that be interesting, or am I just being a nerd? Let me know honestly. Let me know if I'm being a nerd. But kind of like what Siri was saying, like, I don't want to get this information and then forget about it 5 seconds later. I may, but especially for the things that I'm interested, I want to retain. It is interesting and you're a nerd. Thank you. Technically, Lucius the Eternal has a female captain. It's a 12-year-old girl who's possessed by Slanesh demons to perpetually stay young as the actual girl's soul is gone. Oh. Well. Girly pops. Take notes, okay? I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes. I'm taking names. Okay. So we'll do that. We'll put up a poll to see what we're reacting to next week. If you didn't see, yesterday was a Twitch only video. We were crafting some orcs. I made my little mushroom orcs. I'll show them to you later. We also have the orc truck to make. Those will still be on Twitch only because YouTube doesn't like me crafting. Yep. And then, yes, go table. Tables! And then, more Warhammer stuff this week. We have Space Marine 2 collab this Saturday with Udady and my wife. She's gonna give Space Marine 2 a try. You wanna... I'm gonna be honest. I was thinking of playing it today. Off stream, maybe. I don't know. Because I wanted to level up my tech marine. And I was like, don't do that, Connor. Don't do that. But I don't know if you guys want to play some Space Marine 2 and help me level up my tech marine. I don't know. I'm just saying. I may be around to do that on the Discord. I was really close today, but I didn't want to be in a random group of nerds who I don't know. I want to be with my group of nerds who aren't random. Okay? Anyways. Make a table and gather the nerds. Taking names and eating ass. Who's eating ass? Oh, Miwa's playing Space Marine. That's right, Miwa. Miwa, this is the very message. Second very message. Thank you guys for hanging out. If you were inspired by the sisters and are wanting some sisters merch, oh, do I have something for you. I will need to post this on YouTube as well. But I am affiliated with Zephyr Arcade. You can use code ssakanasushi on Zephyr Arcade. Maybe get some sisters, some orcs. We will have a Zephyr Arcade sponsored stream soon where we will be making more orcs. I will show you my clay little orcs. I actually have a cute idea about the clay little orcs too that I need to talk to Zephyr Arcade about. But wouldn't it be cool if you use my code and you could get a free little mushroom orc in your order? That's not official yet, but wouldn't that be cool? I think it would. Let me know. Or we can just do a giveaway. I don't know, whatever. But this is really exciting and I'm having a good time. Okay, bye everybody. What the hell? That's not the ending screen. I don't. You for Poco? Oh, we're playing Pokopia tomorrow. Totally not Warhammer related in the slightest. But if you like coziness and you like me, I'll be playing Pokopia. Welcome new fishies, Noodle Kite. Thank you for the supers, William Afton, Andrew Green, and Fire Spawn. Bye Hecka, bye Johnny, bye Sierra, bye Professor Shap, bye Steel Wolf, bye Ren, bye Dire Rat, bye Azure Horizon, bye William, bye Sutal, bye Miko Jonsu. Bye, Akiva. Bye. Say hi to Miwa.